Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I am one of your hosts, the Taylor Field, and I am joined by.
I am not all bad, Kirkland Patzer.
And I am the idiot with two needlers, Domas.
Yes, we are here because, as a wise man, Mr. Patzer once said, at the end of all things, we are at the
That's
finale.
my quote. I'll take
It's your
it.
quote, yeah. We're at the finale of Halo Season 2, Episode 8. We're going to be talking spoilers tonight, so if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it, and you can come back after we give our non-spoilers thoughts. But before we get into all that fun stuff, a couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. Be sure to check us out on Patreon where you can get ad-free, exclusive, early episodes. It's a good time. There's tons of fantastic stuff over there. There's one more important thing that I need you to do regarding our Patreon. I need you to hear me thank all the Patreon producers.
I was wondering what
Very
path
clean.
you were taking us down there.
Aaron Braden, April Darkness, Jack Grant, Mud, Sam, and T fucking Money. You guys are amazing, legendary folks all around. We love you all. So yeah, check out the Patreon. Lots of retros that are popping off right there. We got the Mad Max retro that is concluded. No, not concluded. We got the Fury Road we're actually getting
That's
into
right.
next. That's right. So one more, and then it's concluded just in time for the Furiosa film. We also have the Planet of the Apes retro that's popping off
yeah.
on there. We just did the first, what was like mid 2000s, late 2000s
Rise.
one. Rise, yeah. And then we'll be moving on to the next two in anticipation for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So there's some good stuff there. Thank you to everyone that supported our Adrenochrome film as well. If you rented that on the Patreon, it's no longer rentable now as it's going into festivals. So if you want to see it, tune in a couple years. Eventually it'll be back up
A little
for you
2-year
guys.
early plug. Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. What else is popping off over there with side quests, Dylan?
Side quest, we had a good, very fun episode this week. Talked about the Outlast trials. And next week, me and Kirkland are going to team up. We're going to be talking about Princess Peach Showtime,
Oh,
as well as some news. New Marvel game wasn't announced, but we got a new trailer for it. And some other good stuff. So always some fun things going on over at SideQuest.
Amazing. What about you, Kirkland? You got anything going on?
I got just Halo on the brain right now.
Halo
Let's
brain.
crack this
Love
goose
it.
egg.
Well, who wants to take it away with non-spoilers? What are you guys' thoughts?
Give it to Halo Brain over here.
Halo brain, yeah. I'm hot off the episode. I literally just finished it like 10-15 minutes ago. And I was like thinking about so many other like shows and stuff, like just making me think of how the show makes me feel, because I feel like I've gone through certain emotions of just getting super hype on the way that they just nail like certain Haloisms. They're usually super few and far between, but when they hit them, like they certainly hit them dead on the center. And I think this episode had a few of those, more so than I think any other place of this season so far. I think season 1 maybe had a little bit more. But there was definitely some moments that I was actually like getting pretty hyped on. I got like semi-emotional at one point of the show, which is just hilarious because I am not attached to like really any of these characters. And the character that I was feeling most attached to was like a super side character, being one of the Covenant members. And I kind of chuckled at the fact that it was making me feel that way on like such a minor character. That just goes to show how like poorly I think our main characters are written for the most part. While I was watching this, I was thinking of like, man, maybe this is a better show if they just kill off Master Chief and just just like get rid of the main head honcho. It's again,
Wow.
like it's a funny feeling to be thinking about like what this show is trying to do, and it's just kind of pushing me in the other direction. But as I was saying with my name, like I definitely think there's not all bad content throughout probably the show in general, but mostly for this episode. When it reaches certain highs, it makes me forget a little bit of the mishaps. But then, in classic Halo fashion, at least for the TV series, they bring in a lot of things for you to just not like at all. I don't know. This is a bit of a mixed bag of an episode for me. I think it'll be a fun one to kind of break down because I think there is kind of a lot to talk about with just the various areas that certain characters are in. We say goodbye to certain characters in this episode. but yeah, I think as a finale for what the season is, it doesn't save it by any means, but I think this is a higher point, for at least for me personally. Like, Taylor, you were super high on the last episode. I think Dylan, you were maybe last episode or the second last episode. I think this was my episode in that sense of finally I have one that I'm kind of giving possibly a thumbs up, but I don't know. Maybe if we break down certain things, I'll just get reminded on some garbage. Because this is not a perfect show by any means, and I don't know. I just want to talk about certain things, so I'll just pass it along to you guys so that we can dive right into the episode. But yeah,
I think I can be pretty quick here. Once again, I had a good time this week. So that's pretty awesome to see that. This season as a whole was mostly a drag, but then like the final 25% of the last 2 episodes worked for me and were entertaining, were a good time. In this episode in particular, there's so many big swings they take here. I don't think all of it necessarily is a home run, but a lot of it also feels like kind of a setup for next season in a way. But it's like it's bold stuff, and so it's entertaining. It was like fun on screen, and I think because there's so much going on, there wasn't really any filler in this episode. There's a couple character storylines that we have not been a big fan of, but I felt like even those were turned a bit more fun because of the surrounding content, new things that were going on. So definitely a lot going on here, and I think because of that it's probably a bit messy, but it's also like it was only like an hour, and it kind of once again breezed by. Like I felt like it was just a lot going on, and it was all like fairly fun. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased at the end of the day. It's always good to have a strong ending, and we had a nice 2-episode swing here at the end that I was a pretty big fan of, I guess. So I'm happy. I really, I would have been great if I loved the whole season, but like I'm not gonna complain at this point. I'm pretty happy with where we left off.
I see you got some Halo games erect in the background there.
Bookshelf there. Halo 3, my favorite, and then Reach there, and then some couple spines if you look really close.
Oh, I might need my magnifying glass. I'll check that on the recast episode.
Yeah, I am, dare I say, reluctantly positive on this episode.
Okay.
That's 3 in a row for you, isn't it?
That is 3 in a row for me.
What a way to end this season.
I don't like admitting that I'm more positive on this finale, but it is because of those bold swings, like you mentioned, Dylan. But it's done messily. I'm getting to see things that I like, but it was unpleasantly achieved. It's like being in a really toxic relationship, and you just have you go on a date every so often with the person. It's like really nice and wonderful. Like you're just going to like a buffet, or you're gonna do something really nice. But then 90% of the time when you're not going on a date, it's just toxic. It's fucking atrocious, and that's what this kind of feels like. So, there's introductions. There's story narratives and plots and stuff that they're really tackling in here, and I feel like they really, like you said, Dylan, they cram so much into here, and that is why I like it, because there's so many Haloisms that they've implemented in this episode. But it's messy, and from a general audience's perspective, I don't know how they would handle it. Where a few of my friends that haven't played Halo, but they're watching the show, and they think, oh, it's not a bad show, it's kind of decent, but I don't know how they would handle seeing so many things that were boldly introduced in this episode, because it's so confusing, where we've had such a slow build-up and a slow burn. Reach was done in an episode and a half, if that, which
Almost
is
forgot
such
that
a
even
huge
happened,
thing.
actually.
Yeah, which is crazy. And just to transition from, Reach should have been at least half a season. It should have been a huge epic scale thing, but they really diminished it, and I feel like all the story points that they introduced and they covered in 6 episodes were casted aside, and they didn't even do a good enough job at leading towards what we are at now. I feel like what we're at now should have been... It should have, Reach should have been 4 episodes, and then where we're at now in these last 2 episodes should have been the pick-me-up after... how can I say this? Reach 4 episodes, and then give us 2 episodes to build up to where we are at now, and then everything they introduced in this episode shouldn't have been introduced. They should have saved this for later, and then they should have maybe hinted at this more. Like last week's episode could have been a good finale. They should have just spaced it all out better. But
we could have cut
rushed...
that random episode in that town that I already forgot the name.
Oh
Totally.
man, yeah.
Totally, the bonfire as Vanek and the so much
Yeah,
that
I like
Quan.
that you call out
Barizza's.
like, let's cut this guy's funeral. None of the other
Yeah,
stuff. Like, let's
cut
just
the
get rid of it.
funeral. Quan attacking the villagers with her shovel. Like, there's so much shit that I didn't need, and they threw in there. So, uh, yeah, nothing else I can say in non-spoilers. The rest is all going to be spoiler talk. And let me say, yeah, I know I'm being negative, and I said I'm reluctantly positive, but there are some stuff that I think that was really cool and it was nice to see. It's just unfortunate that they implemented it in such a poor story narrative way. So,
Man,
yeah.
one last thing I'll say before we jump into the spoilers. How I was saying, I was thinking of certain shows while I was watching this episode. One of them being Boba Fett, and I absolutely hate that show. That show actually brought down the character of Boba Fett in my eyes. I just don't like that character anymore. It's funny because I feel like before that he was just such a badass. He looked such a badass. Didn't really know too much about him, but I just knew that he was a badass. That's pretty much the same thing with me and Master Chief. I feel like I don't actually know this character, even though like I've played him for so many years throughout the Halo campaigns. And I like again preface I didn't like stay super focused on like what goes on in the campaigns. It's mostly just like doing the missions, probably skipping cutscenes here and there, but just the character, I really don't know too much about him, but he's such a badass. And then we're getting these like Pablo moments throughout this season, and I'm just like, I just don't think I like this character anymore. I should hold up and maybe dive into some books because well, actually, I guess there is some Halo Legends novels on Boba Fett. I'm sure that like tell a good story about him, and I know that there's great Halo books that talk about this character. But just for what's portrayed in the show, I'm just like, man, way to take like just such an icon of a character and just really make him feel like a doofus. And like doubling down on what I was saying, I'm just like, I think you don't really need this character to tell this story. By the end of the episode, maybe he is pretty important for the story reasons, but yeah, it's unfortunate just kind of how I'm feeling on Master Chief through 2 seasons. Like it's like it's not like he was really good in season 1. It's just overall the character I'm not fond of.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you guys got, or should we take an ad break and get into spoilers?
I'm ready to spoiler it out.
All right, I'm gonna spoil it out in 3, 2, 1, and we are back. So, where do you guys want to start in the world of spoilers?
Well, I mean, it's a big topic, but we got to talk about the flood, right? Particularly, so, last week and just this whole season, we've been talking about what the canon event is for how Chief and others get to the ring and how they've changed that. We kind of, I think at this point, we've probably all accepted that, or mostly Taylor, who's like deep on the lore. It's like, okay, this is how this series decided to make it, so we find the ring. But I'm curious, first of all, the flood, like how different this is from the games and books or whatever, because like, I don't know, I couldn't not tell you a single story beat about the flood. I remember fighting them, but I don't remember like what the origins are and whatnot. So I'm curious how like closely it compares, and if you like what I presume the twists and turns they've taken in this series.
So, every installation, every Halo installation has flood samples on it. And after the Forerunners basically took out their food source because the flood need anything with a nervous system to tap into sentient life to
Doesn't look good for
latch
us.
on. No. So that's what they need. And so when the flood was spreading, the Forerunners basically put all the main species, humans, elites, everyone, brutes, all in these capsules that would be unaffected by the Halo rings, and they activated the rings, and the remaining Forerunners died out, left the galaxy, and boom, there you go. They left the only remaining flood samples left in the Halo rings to be studied by future civilizations to create a cure. So enter Halo 1, where you have the Covenants on the ring. The Covenant encounter the flood, and they seal off the flood and contain it. Well, Captain Keyes and the UNSC think that it's actually a weapons cache that the Covenant was stockpiling, so they take out the Covenant guarding the area and break into it, and the flood just go rampant and they go loose. The flood spread all over the ring, and it gets to the point where the flood take over like the Covenant cruiser, and they take over Keyes, and they're turning Captain Keyes into a grave mine, which is like a sentient flood, our hierarchy of command. So the flood at the base level of what you see in this episode too, they're like drones. Anything that's living nearby, they're going to attack, and their objective is to grow rapidly, expand, and to form a colossal organic piece called the grave mind, and that grave mind will then be able to distribute commands and collectively, consciously control everyone like a hive mind. So that's their goal. And in Halo 1, all the Flood gets destroyed. That's great. And then obviously they find another installation, another Halo ring in Halo 2, and that has Flood on it. The Flood outbreak kind of occurred sooner without the Covenant and the humans getting there, and the Grave Mind formed on there, and the Grave Mind is the villain in Halo 3, and yada, yada, yada. There are other worlds that have Flood outbreaks. You see that in Halo Wars, and such, but this in particular is very different. It's different because, to my knowledge, Onyx didn't have a flood outbreak. It didn't have any flood-related stuff in the Forerunner vault that they checked into. The way that the flood spreads, there's only one instance where you see maybe a character get infected in Halo where they aren't directly attached by like an infectious form, and the infectious forms, I took this with a grain of salt, and I really tread lightly in here and their adaptation of the flood, and I actually am pretty positive to it because, well, they've skipped over meeting the flood on the Halo ring, which I think is a shot in the foot. I really don't like that. I don't like how they introduced it as spores here, but the fact that it is spores in this little device, I'm okay with, and I can get on board with that for the most part. The little smaller infectious forms things, I thought that was interesting. A normal flood-sized infection form, like I'm sure you guys have seen in the games, they're like the size of like a human head, maybe a bit bigger.
I think of the face grabbers from Half-Life whenever I think of those things, if you know what I'm talking about. Basically, the
I
face
don't.
grabber, the face hugger from Alien as well. Same sort of
Okay.
idea.
Same idea. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Dylan.
No, I mean that even just like the origin of them being on the ring, generally speaking, versus it coming from that vault in Onyx, getting taken up to the space station, and then breaking open there and spreading from there. So you'd think like, I mean, I guess it's two. Like one, it is kind of contained to that ship, but then also once it gets smart enough, it can use these ships to like navigate elsewhere and keep spreading, I guess. So that kind of sets up kind of two ways that it could occur if we were to get to a season 3 there. But no, I like to hear that kind of difference of the origin of it. But that was just, to me, I thought that was like really successful in this episode. And once again, I'm not really comparing it to my knowledge of the story because in the games, because oh my god, my memory's not that good. But I thought like the horror element of it, the creepy element of it, the way it was shot, the very zombie-like acting of these people, and then eventually we do get like more of the kind of pussy flood that we know and love, and you just love shooting their pimples and watching them pop and all that stuff. I thought all of it was just fun. I mean, I just love a good zombie movie, and it was just like that kind of contained within the finale of this show. So yeah, definitely made for a lot going on in this episode, but I thought all of it was good. And also, not a big fan of Soren and that whole family, and Lara, she's bit the bullet now. She's gone. So I guess that's a plus on my end. Sorry Lara about that.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I feel like I'm not fully sold on the flood as of right now. Like maybe it's just too close to how like the Infected in The Last of Us kind of went. Like that show is still kind of recently in my mind with the sport. Yeah, like the I think specifically the hairy in the mouth thing. The hairy in the mouth thing. The hairy mouth object that was in their coming down their throat. It was just a little bit too samesies in that sense. I did like when like the zombie character, well, I guess just the Infected, started to like really morph into like the objects a little bit more that I remember from looking more like flood-like as opposed to just being like a zombie. But I don't know. Like maybe we'll see next season if it's a little bit more like the flood that we know as opposed to just zombie characters. Maybe that'll win me over a little bit more. The whole infection thing, yeah, I'm with you, Dylan. I didn't know the origins of the flood or like kind of how all that stuff worked. Thanks to the wiki that is Taylor Field over here, I'm definitely a lot more knowledgeable on that now. So thanks for that. But yeah, I think I was mostly just looking for the versions of the flood that I recognize, and because I didn't get that, it was a little bit like, okay. I do like just the overall threat of what the flood is, and I wish that was maybe talked about a little bit more on the scenes that we got from like McKee and the Covenant, aspect of it. Like they don't really, unless I'm like really mistaken, like they don't really seem too bothered by the flood right now, like throughout their conversations through the season. It's not like it's been a big focal point. It's mostly just about finding the Halo,
they aren't even aware of it at
Yeah.
this point, which is a shame because when they learned about it in the games, like it's pretty like it scares them. Like they're
Yeah.
terrified of this.
And I like that neutral threat on the both sides, because I think on the surface when you see Halo, like general viewer, you would see like the human side, the UNSC, and then the Covenant side. Like those are the two armies. So I think even just playing through the games, like I remember the first time I encountered like a Covenant shooting at the Flood and not me, I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. Like, and then obviously as the games go on, it's just the threat of the Flood is so much bigger and so much scarier as they go along. So I do hope, I think that we get there as like the big threat in between. But yeah, like personally, I just think the delivery of the Flood, it didn't hit the mark like I was maybe expecting it to. But
There was a couple weird choices, like the first scene when it happens and Miranda's like doing her microscope stuff, and there's that other lady, and she's like the first one that we see get infected. Like the
Janine.
music choice in that scene is really fucking weird.
Thanks for calling that out.
weird.
I completely forgot to write that down, but I was so like tripped out by the music that was going on, and then it's just like showing a bunch of like transmissions, I guess. Like it just keeps going to like different people that I guess would be getting exposed. It'd be like
Yeah,
a
it feels
weird
like
zoom in shot.
Zombieland or something in terms of the vibe of it.
Yeah. Very interesting choice.
And Taylor, can you, well, both of you, I guess, but can you guys help me explain what's going on with the Vision and Quan? That was a scene I had to watch a couple of times, and I was still a little bit confused. My understanding is that this vision that she's been having is like, I don't know, some thing in her head to do with the Flood, and she's somehow related to the Flood, and then she's like a protector of the Flood, but she's like, she helped, I guess, get the Flood out of that vault, and that was like always her purpose. I'm a little lost on it, even after watching the scene a couple times.
She's an original character, and I don't know anything about characters like this that can make the Flood come into like a standstill. And like dead old lady priestess has the ability to control the Flood too. Like this is totally new, unless it's in some Halo book that I have not read. I think this is just an original concept stemming from an original character, and I'm not super big on it. I feel like the only time the Flood wouldn't attack you is when the Grave Mine makes them not attack, which he's done in the games. So
Yeah, I was at first when she like the vision of the old lady, she like stops the Flood from advancing, and then she's like talking about how like we are all your ancestors, and I'm like, oh no, Quan's gonna be like the origin of the Flood, and it's all attached to her like family. I was so like worried in that moment because I 100% thought that's where you're going, and then she goes off like, I can only hold them for so long, go, and I was like, okay, this is like a third party coming into it, which is Quan's ancestors. And yeah, just again, like that whole story isn't really working for me. Although I've like maybe warmed up to the character of Quan, I think the more important she's becoming, the less interested I'm kind of becoming in that aspect.
But the way the lady's talking about it is that, like, she's definitely affiliated with the Flood, and she's talking about how like it was a prophecy that Quan would be the one to free them from their cave or whatever and help them spread. And so I guess the part that doesn't really make sense to me is like why they're letting Quan go. Like if she's fulfilled her purpose at this point, why not let her become one with them?
I don't think they let her go. I think it was legit like the old lady said like we can hold them off only for so long. So
it was
I think
kind of just
there's
cut off. Yeah, we didn't really get like, a full conclusion on it.
I took it as the fact that Quan has some sort of ability of not repellent, but like a protective ability or something that can like withstand or withhold or keep the Flood at bay of some shape or form. Ultimately, with all the talk about Forerunner DNA and whatnot, I wouldn't be surprised if she's got some type of Forerunner DNA in her family tree or something like that gives her this whatever ability that they've conjured up. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that part's a little bit confusing for me, for sure.
It is. Just to add to what you guys said with the Flood, like I already said, I think that it was I enjoyed it. I did, and I think that the way that the spores were acting like airborne, I like that. I think it makes sense. As I said, that only one character I think has been infected airborne, while the rest are infected with like the actual infection forms themselves. The way the characters, everyone was just kind of standing still, and it was happening at an accelerated rate. It was really, really unnerving and uneasy, uneasy, yeah, uneasy just to kind of like see that. I enjoyed the movements when they would like tweak and stuff like that a little bit. That was really well
Crack
done.
in the neck.
Yeah, crack in the neck, and I really liked when that one flood form just started to like break through the cell and like squish out, and like that was super super freaky.
Terrifying.
Really well done. Again, my takeaway is that I feel like they should have done this in another future episode, but it is what it is. When they're in the control room and the flood just start taking over in that room and like tweaking out, and everyone's like trying to figure out what's going on, and Parangoski gets fucking
Yeah, she's
mauled by dozens of flood forms. But the one scene where Halsey gets and closes the door, I hate shit like this. It's just because it grosses me out. But the person's banging for help, and the flood form like goes on her eye and like goes in, like, oh, it's just gnarly.
That's a good nerve to go for if you're the flood.
Yeah. Well, nervous system.
Straight to the
That's
brain.
exactly what they go for. And fun little fact: if you remember Sergeant Johnson from the games, I don't know if you.
Oh,
guys
yeah.
know.
Marina, did I give you permission to bitch? That's like one of my favorite lines of his.
You learn that he actually has an immunity to the flood through.
Ooh.
He was subject to plasma damage from a plasma explosion fighting the Covenant, and it actually affected his nervous system to the point where the flood could not infect it. And
Damn.
yeah, they actually were at a point where they let Chief basically make the decision whether they could take him and cut him up and harvest him and find a cure for the flood. But Chief said, no, we're not going to do that. So, so
Wow, good guy, Chief.
Yeah.
Pablo would have said yes.
Pablo would. He
Yeah,
would
this
just
Chief.
carve him up.
Pablo doesn't care.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
One of the so the note I made for Parangoski is that like she's definitely getting messed up, but technically we don't see her die on screen, so she could still be saved. Someone with
Yeah.
another gun could have shot the flood that were on her, and maybe she didn't get bit yet. So I'm not writing her off yet, but also we kind of felt that way potentially about Keys of like, oh, technically he could be alive. It's like, no, he's long gone at this point. So if I had to guess, I'd say she's dead, but there's a chance. There's a chance. And then Halsey gets infected. I thought that was a nice scene that she had with Miranda where she runs down to the lab to try and just connect with her. But yeah, she gets infected, so she throws her in a cryo bed, and then like I don't know, is Miranda gonna be like the last living person on this whole ship? I guess.
Well, they're not even on a ship, right? They're still on Onyx base.
Oh, okay. I thought they were in like a space, some space thing. So that
I have no idea how she's getting out of that. Like she's a cornered little mouse in that.
Yeah, because I guess
right now.
Soren and Kessler escaped through that like basement thing and then Layra stayed. I thought her name was Layla the whole season until I had subtitles on eventually, and so it's Layria or something. So she stays behind, but they get out. But I guess Miranda. Who knows? She's gonna have to come back to get Halsey out at some point, but that'll have to be long in the future, I would imagine.
Well,
when
they're
they
watching
find a
her
cure.
door now, right? Like she freezes Halsey, which Halsey getting infected by the flood is totally not canon. They're changing everything.
That was a
everything.
bold story choice.
Mm-hmm.
Big
It
time.
really was, and it fooled me. I'm not actually hating it, but it definitely fooled me when she stopped talking and Miranda's like, "What, Halsey? What's more important than yada yada?" And then like you look at her, it's like, oh fuck, she's infected because she's doing the freezing thing, and you see in the what am I trying to say? Peripheral vision. You can see people around the room starting to freeze too. It's just it's unnerving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like that detail with the flood just takeover, I guess, of them just freezing up. With the Halsey thing, I just kind of thought she was safe because she's such a great actor and like a great character as well. I think she has like a lot of ties to numerous factors in the show, so it makes sense to keep her around. But the second that she just froze up like that, because I thought that she was so safe, it definitely got me in the surprise factor. And I mean, it shows some like stakes, right? Like there is characters that are important that can still get infected. Not Chief, I bet he's gonna be fucking invincible.
His
throughout
armor
every
has
season. Yeah.
a degree of shielding that can keep Flood.
Hey, he's
from-
got an eye slit now. They can get in there.
Oh,
That's a
God.
big
Yeah,
nerve
that
too,
visor's
right in the
gone.
eyeball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's any other flood related notes I had, but I think that was it.
Let me take a gander here and see what I wrote down for Flood notes.
Do you just have flood notes, like a section in your notes that you took?
More or less.
Some of my notes I don't understand. Though, is the thing.
You just write like keywords, and you're like, I'll remember what that
I
means.
do. Like
I've done that
I
a
write a
couple times in the
sentence
past.
and I add like hyphens to it, and I look back like, what the fuck was I talking about?
Well, you watched this at midnight, right? So it was a while ago.
I watched this episode twice actually, not back to back. But I
Ooh.
watched it at midnight, and the next day I snuck it in another
Nice.
viewing and watched it again.
You sneaky.
Yeah, I just
'Cause
I just watched that one scene again. But Kirkland, you said a particular scene made you tear up. What was that?
Yeah. So that was the death of the Arbiter, actually. The whole like honor thing for him, that was totally just like catching me off guard, I think, of him just being this like outcast. And like while this is going on, while Chief is just beating his face in, he's like begging him to just put him out of his misery and like restore his honor. I'm like, I just fucking want a show about like the Covenant and like this sort of aspect. Like, give me Arbiter as the main character, and like I want to see his redemption quest and like just all of like hit like where he went wrong and why he is the Arbiter right now. Like I am so interested in that story just because of kind of what I've seen from him in this season, which has been so minor. And then yeah, he's just like this defeated soldier. He's just down and out, and he's just begging for death. And then of course the demon gives it to him, and I was just like, wow, like that. Like there's some music in there too. I'm like, man, they made me like miss the Arbiter, and that's not even the Arbiter that I know from the games, right? So I mean, yeah, like we've lost Commander Keyes. Halsey's infected now. Like there is some really big Lara, like she's gone. There's some big
Kai.
players that I should be more attached to. But this super side character, it was the one that I was the most invested in. So goodbye Arbiter. I don't think we'll get a replacement Arbiter. I don't expect that to happen throughout the show, but I don't know. I am glad that, Taylor, we were joking about Pablo's face off with the Arbiter with no armor and the energy sword, and we're like, this could be so cool. Hey, we got that finally by the end, so I was definitely happy to see that. But yeah, and like the whole setting of, I'm usually just dogging on CGI in like daylight. It just usually looks way too bright, but I thought that they like really blended that well. It probably helps that like everything I guess is CGI in that moment. But still, I thought it was a really good fight scene, really good ending. And yeah, I don't know. I was surprised how I felt with that episode or that part of it.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun battle. I'm surprised Arbiter's gone. I thought he'd have a longer run. I guess if this might just be the end of the show in general. Might not get to season 3. So in that sense, I guess it makes sense to have more conclusive ending there. But I like the battle. Like there's kind of 2 phases where Arbiter was just destroying Chief, and then he starts using the grappling hook and starts messing him up. So you kind of have that. I think once again, my criticism here is that of like almost all the action in the show is just like the shaky cam is way too much. It really bothers me. I think that's the only thing that made the scene look a little janky, but otherwise I thought it looked really solid. So yeah, it was a fun duel, and I just love the setting of the Halo. I guess it's just like British Columbia pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it really looks like our backyard. But it is really beautiful, and even that scene when he's looking out and like those towers are rising through the woods and mountains in the distance, just looked really cool. So it was a great backdrop with a pretty good fight with pretty good stakes, and yeah, like especially Arbiter when he's having those last couple lines and like one of his mouth tentacles is like completely broken and not working anymore. Brutal stuff, but yeah, a really fun scene.
It was probably Pablo's hometown because apparently he's from like British Columbia and like the
But don't
Kootenays.
bump into him if he.
Oh, I got a great place, guys. We'll go film there.
That's why he got the role.
I agree. It was the Halo ring. It looks beautiful, and the Arbiter. Seeing him pass away here, I didn't like a lot of the stuff with the Covenant and their whole hierarchy and their dialogue. I feel like we got just a taste of it, but we didn't get to explore it enough. And that's what makes Halo 2 shine so hard is the deep dive into the Arbiter as a character and the deep dive into the hierarchy of the Covenant. It's just it's a freaking fantastic story. And they killed the Arbiter and they kept McKee. Are you kidding me? Like Chief like looks up and McKee's got her power stats. Like, I'm a demon too. It's like, what the fuck are you babbling on about? Get the fuck out of here. God damn. And then she's gone. It's just so stupid. Like, take her out and make the Arbiter going through this journey. Like, you don't.
That would
You
make
don't-
more sense, I feel, of like having like, you know, the human demon and then like the Covenant demon. They're like pretty similar power levels, but you got McKee there.
No, you got fucking McKee. Like, she's not a demon. She's not doing anything. Get out of here. God damn.
It was even pretty awkward. Just like she has the dramatic, like the door closes behind her as she goes into the structure, and then he follows her like 4 seconds later, and then she's like long gone. It was like, how did she get so far in this such a short period of time? It was very weird.
So stupid.
Maybe her key opened up a different door. It was like a shortcut, and then when he did
Yeah,
it, it was
little side
a long
hatch.
way.
Well, it
Uh,
looked like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one last detail on that fight that I loved was when the Arbiter just like super power smashed his energy sword and it just like shattered Chiefs and like the plasma just like went all over him. I never thought that could happen because obviously I don't think that's ever been shown in the video game before. But such a sweet detail in the way that it was just like just chewing away at his armor. I love that. I love that sequence.
Yeah, everything about it was great. The plasma like went onto his suit a little bit and like sizzled. That was really cool. They really did a good job with the CGI and all that. In that scene too, and before McKee leaves and then Chief looks up, you can see another tower rising up, and I'm not sure what that is in response to. They were kind of mysterious about that, but then it looked like it was like the human fleet of ships getting ready to land. Or at least approach orbit of the Halo ring. I think it was human ships or it was Covenant ships. It was a quick scene. You just see a bunch of ships incoming, so I wasn't sure how to take that.
I feel like I missed that. I didn't even notice
It's
that.
very quick.
Could've been
It was very
both.
quick.
Maybe just the wars coming to the.
Could have been
the-
both.
the
Well, I
thing,
mean,
yeah.
Kai, like we'll talk about it in a bit. Kai took out that main Covenant carrier, and then
Right.
Parangoski's like, "The tides have turned now. We got the upper hand."
Oh my
Like,
gosh, yeah.
you never have the upper hand. It's the fucking Covenant.
They made it seem like that was the end of the
Anyways.
battle. Like they just
Yeah.
won. And
Oh, I felt like this is it. This is all of humanity and all of the Covenant. And my genuine fear is that is the case. This is all of humanity. That's all the Covenant, and the Flood is not going to get further than Onyx. We're just going to see it in this little area. Miranda's going to find a cure, stop it, and then they're going to go back to just McKee and Chief trying to make the Halo their own
clapping
home.
cheeks.
Like
I'm
clapping
a
cheeks.
demon too.
Oh, what a stupid line. Jesus Christ.
Man, you just mentioned Parangoski there, and a character I've definitely I don't know if I ever loved her, but this season definitely did nothing in the love category for her. I just laughed so hard in that sequence when she's like, "Finally, the tides have turned. Like we won the battle." And the whole like lead up to that moment, she's like, "Control, Chief, listen to me." He's like, like she's just so not in control of the situation. And then Kai, basically like ignoring her again, just like pilots the ship, destroys the main Covenant ship, and then she's just like, "All right, going exactly to plan." Like,
Yeah.
she just seems like such a goofball in this episode specifically, especially when she's trying to talk to Chief. And I just love the idea that Chief could just hear her like the entire time, because as soon
Yeah.
as Halsey comes in, he like replies instantly, and I'm like, oh my god, like
The Halsey stuff was so funny too because she's like, Halsey, tell Chief to listen to you and do this thing. Halsey immediately doesn't do that. Tells him like how to infiltrate into the ship. And they don't even care. Like, they don't do anything to Halsey. They don't put her in a prison. They don't send her out of the room. They're just like, yeah, I guess she can hang out in the command center and continue to go against our plans. Like, they don't even care that she's continuing to be there. It's so goofy, the logistics of that.
Yeah, she's so goofy. Her dialogue with Chief really did crack me up when she goes in the comms like, "Chief, it's so good to see you're alive and you're here fighting with our troops," and everyone's listening to this conversation, and it really makes me laugh.
she's on speakerphone as he's just like shit talking her, and like the whole season, like she's been trying to basically stop Chief from like being in this position. So Yeah,
Yeah.
this season's not done her justice at all, and yeah, not a character I'm gonna miss by any means.
No more
Hopefully
food
she's actually gone.
references, oddly
Mm,
enough,
mhm.
in this episode.
Yeah.
But
Chief, I brought your favorite tea from a
yeah.
farm on Earth. And then by the end of the conversation, I actually did it in a lab. It wasn't real.
Uh, Kai, do you think Kai is dead? Another one that's like ambiguous. Like you could see like in season 3, it just shows that shot again, and then she like twinkles her toes, and
Yeah.
she's just knocked out temporarily, because her body wasn't like imploded or anything. Like she's still
Mhm.
floating there. So could go either way, but I think I'm fine if that's the end of that character.
Spartans never die. They only go missing. And
Except for Vanek.
I don't think that she's dead. Except for the one that we saw die
Yeah.
straight up. Plus all the Spartan 3s, they definitely got murked.
Yeah.
They went through a few squads of Spartan 3s, but yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like the fact that she still has her helmet on, like it could be contained in that moment. It's a nice dramatic fake out maybe is a good way of saying it. If they do go that route, I'd be kind of surprised if that is the end of that character. But
I think at one point I would have been emotional about her passing away,
yeah,
but not anymore.
no.
Kind of
So-
washed over me.
I don't think she's dead. I feel like that if they ended on the scene of her just crashing into the Covenant carrier and that was it, then I would believe it. But the fact that we got that second shot of her floating in space, we know that those Mjolnir armor suits are definitely space resistant or space proof. But the big thing too, and I don't know if they're gonna really. This might be too much of a callback for the showrunners to do, because I feel like they're just like fuck the lore. But in the events of Halo 1, Master Chief was not the only Spartan 2 on the Pillar of Autumn when they crash landed on the ring. There was another Spartan called Linda, who is a character that actually comes back in Halo 5 Guardians, actually. She's a part of Chief's Blue Team squad with Fred and Kelly. And so Linda, she got
His
injured.
name.
The fact that their names are just like fucking so generic. Got John, Linda, and Fred over here.
That's a good point, actually. John is a very basic name. Sorry to
So,
all the Johns out
look-
there.
So Linda gets injured, I believe, on Reach. Chief and Linda are fighting on Reach, and that's when they bounce. Chief takes Linda, puts her on the Pillar of Autumn, puts her into a cryo tube, keeps her like alive until they can get medical help. So
Halsey, same play.
it's very similar in that regard. Actually, you're right. So they get to the Halo ring, and they're being pursued by the Covenant. So when the Pillar of Autumn crash lands on the ring, it jettisons the pods out into space, and so Linda is in cryo, floating in space, and Chief reclaims her after he escapes the Halo ring in the first game, brings her back to Earth. So that's what makes me think here you have this Spartan 2 floating around outside the Halo ring, kind of like unconscious. I just feel like that's a pretty good call out to the same scenario that happened with Spartan 2 Linda. But again, I don't even know if the showrunners know that. They could have just done this just as their story without reading into the lore.
They don't know shit about Linda.
They
I
don't.
guarantee you.
They don't.
Cortana and Chief are back together.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about that?
I mean,
I think it's a little bit weird how much they love each other. I'm just gonna. I feel like I've never felt that that tie throughout the games. Like they're a unit throughout the games, but in here there's just something a little bit extra, a little extra sparkle that they give these two characters for my liking. Yeah.
it's rushed, I'd say, because there definitely is, I feel like, that sparkle, but it always feels platonic when it gets into the later Halo games, and not like a super sexualized version. But even the sense of like Cortana being adult human sized, you see that here, but you don't see that until Halo 4 after they've been through so much at the very end of the game. But here, no, she just pops up human size, like ready to, Pablo, let's fucking do it here on the Halo ring, end of all things. Like,
Pablo is speaking through the character to the actor.
but I mean, I like her as the voice in his head and stuff like that, giving him
Yeah.
information. But She
Like-
gave up on him pretty quick, I'd say. Like she's like, I'm here to rescue Cortana's like, it's too late. There's nothing you can do. We're both going to die. Like, just that's not my Cortana.
Yeah, she made a miscalculation. Apparently, she's like, I've gone through all the simulations. This is only ends one way.
Apparently
She's
not.
fucking flawed, man. She's not a good AI. But yeah,
He's
just like when I guess it's when Parangoski's getting Halsey to prevent John from like going to save the AI, and like it's just. I don't know. I think the dialogue there is just like really bad for me where Chief is just like, she's more than just an AI, and like all of these things. Like I get it. Cortana's important to Chief. I only really know that because of what's been pulled from the games and like what I've taken into the show. I don't think the show's done a good job at like really showing that connection between the two. Mostly just because I think the season, like they've really just been apart, and it's just like, I don't know. I guess that relationship just peaked last season. And then they've just been trying to get that back, and now that they're back, I don't know. It's like it's probably a nitpick, but it just it's just their dynamic. I'm not super loving, which is a shame because that's like that's the dynamic duo in the entire franchise, really.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna add to that note after this quick ad break. And we're back. So the note to that too was just like Chief going after Cortana and all that. Like there's so much with Cortana. Cortana is so important. Yada yada yada. There was a line here where Parangoski looked at Halsey and was like, "You can build another one."
Yeah,
it's not
I think
like
that's the line
she,
I was trying to remember.
yeah, it's not like she just grew a fucking clone of herself in a lab and then carved out her brain cavity and like went through a lot of crazy shit. Like you can't just make another one that easily. But
Parangoski's
know?
not very bright.
She doesn't know much. Yeah.
no.
She doesn't even know Linda.
No, it is because when I think about the game and the characters, I think about Chief, Arbiter, Johnson, and Cortana. Like those are to me like the four iconic characters, and specifically Cortana is like one of the most iconic ones. And the fact that I just don't care about her at all in this show is kind of a bummer and generally forgettable. And I feel like whatever arc she had this season with McKee. The McKee kind of gets what she wants from her, just smashes her. And I didn't really feel like that had any attention to it either. And then it was kind of janky. It's like, oh, I jumped into the ship's AI. It's like, okay, what's going on here? I don't think it works that way, but sure, whatever you say. So I don't know if we do get another season of the show. I guess I'm maybe looking more forward, hopefully, to the future of that character now that she's kind of with Chief in this more interesting place. And I feel like. Especially Chief now, he has less and less allies by the freaking minute in this episode as everyone's dying off. I think that could be really good time now for us to really dig into those characters and build that bond between them. But yeah, at this point in time, not a character that I care too much about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What else?
Agreed.
Let me look through my notes here.
Couple quick hits for me. Ackerson, I was saying it this whole season. What a waste of a character.
Oh yeah.
And he's still around too, right? Like
Full good guy now.
Yeah, I don't need him. He should have got flooded and stayed behind. Chief and the coin, was that slow-mo or did he make it stop in midair?
I think it's slow-mo.
It was
if I
fucking
had to
corny.
guess.
That's what
What
I
did you,
think.
Kirkland? What's your take?
I thought
Slow-mo, or
slow-mo.
did he make it levitate? Does he have telekinesis?
I don't like that. I really don't like that. I'm gonna say slow-mo for my own sake.
I'm
but
going to.
I really didn't like that
I
sequence.
think it's telekinesis. I don't know what I'd like more, but
He is a
or like
demon.
less, but it seemed like telekinesis to me.
So what did I wrote a note on that specifically. I wrote, okay, Chief is now Harvey Dent. So he's trying to figure out what to do in this situation. So he flipped a coin just like Harvey Dent would do.
But he knows the outcome, so he's just going to flip it just to do what he wants to do anyway.
Pretty much.
It's kind of a thing with Harvey Dent, right? He's got the trick coin. I guess before he becomes Two-Face.
I don't know Harvey Dent
He makes
very
his
well,
own
so.
look. Okay.
Yeah, he makes his own. Oh, he is fucking Master Chief.
He is.
Uh,
He literally
he's
is.
not
yeah.
fucking, but he is the fucking Master Chief.
So they didn't
know.
watch. They didn't play the Halo games to study up. They watched.
They watched The Dark Knight. They're
Dark
like,
Knight, yeah.
oh,
Watch
I
The
like
Dark
this.
Knight.
Let's make Halo this guy. Or let's make Halo. Let's make Chief this guy. Oh my god.
Not even the Dark Knight. Maybe they watched the other one with Tommy
Dark
Lee
Knight
Jones
Rises?
as
Oh,
Harvey
I
Dent.
see.
Jim
The-
Carrey's Riddler.
Yeah,
that
the
one.
old one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just I guess in that moment too, when Chief is, I guess, regretting his decisions to just leave the Spartan Threes. I thought this was so ridiculous that like he makes this big moment of like telling Kai that he's not going with her. He's basically just saying "fuck you" to the Spartan Threes. Like, I'm just gonna go on my own mission. He gets like halfway to his mission. He's like, I'm gonna do my telekinesis flip on this coin, and then I'm gonna go join them. It's gonna be awesome. And like, it's kind of directed in that sense of being like, oh my god, our chief is here. But like, for me as the viewer, I'm just like, he's such an asshole. Like, he just let so many Spartan threes die, and he ended up going by the end of like the clash anyways. Like, Perez was almost dead because he didn't show up on time there. Like, maybe the mission would have gone similar if he had just gone with them, but like, still, I just thought that was such a weird like weight of a decision in last week's episode to just come back, and he's just there. And then what does Kai even say to him? Like,
It's the chief. I thought you weren't coming. I thought you were saving humanity or something.
yeah,
like that.
yeah, something about humanity. He's like, you're welcome. And I'm like, what a fucking tool. I hate this guy so much. This is not my chief. And like, this is where I'm just thinking of Boba Fett and how that show just ruined that character. I'm like, they are not doing this character well
He's
at
like
all.
Boba Fett. He's like Harvey Dent, but he's not like Chief.
I want Linda. Make Linda the main
Linda,
character of the
yes.
show.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because you're totally right. Hands down, 100%. If Chief was there at the start, that first squad that got obliterated would have survived. Like
If
every
he was in the
Spartan
ship,
walks
because
out
he just
alive.
has godlike luck, he just wouldn't have gotten blasted, I bet. Like, if they keep mentioning this luck stat that he has, that like, and he wasn't even there. He like, no, I'm just gonna go join the team later, I guess. Be Gandalf, show up on the third day of the third light, whatever.
Let them clear out the joint first, and then I'll saunter in after.
What a prick.
The scene with the Spartan Threes, I did like all that kind of stuff. I liked when Kai was there and they're in the dropship, and she's like telling Perez like, get it out of your head, all that kind of stuff, and just out of nowhere, the ship just half of it fucking explodes. Everyone just gets sucked out. Like, man, that's fucking terrifying. And then they're like flying through, and all the dead bodies are floating around too.
Yeah, that I love the way that was done. Especially like, it's such a similar situation that they did in the simulations. I did like that it was basically like the exact same mission. Yeah, I just like that aspect. And then when what does Kai say? She's like, don't worry, like, it's all gonna go all right. And like, as she's saying that, it just like blows up. It honestly reminded me of like the like storming the beaches of like Normandy, when they're just like in the ships and there's just like ships all around them just getting exploded by mortar strikes. It felt very similar in that sense, and they're just like floating through the debris, which is not actually debris. It's just like the first squads that went through. It's just so much psychological damage that the troops are taking in that moment without even like getting boots on the ground, to actually start the fighting. So I really did like how chaotic that sequence was, because it was scary the way that it was shot in the simulations, but like the real thing was just turned up a whole nother notch. And yeah, the soldiers were just, their morale was breaking as soon as they were on the ship. They were freaking out. They were not saying, let's be bees, guys, just be bees, go in masses.
You know, in Return of the King, when the scene where they see Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli leaving the army, they're like, Lord Aragorn, where are you going? And then Theoden's like, he leaves because there's no hope. That's when Chief is leaving, and all the Spartan Threes are like, Lord Chief, where are you going? You reminded me of another thing here, just to talk about the casualties. It wasn't just the Spartan Threes that Chief is responsible for. So when Perez and Kai were down on the ground, I think Mullins was there too, but Kai looks back and is like, oh, the fleet's here, and you see the whole fucking UNSC fleet, which is super cool, and they're coming in full force. And Kai hops on the phone and is like, I need an evac here, yada yada yada, and you get a response like, yep, we're coming in hot, bearing on your position. You see a huge UNSC ship comes in, just gets fucking annihilated. You know whose fault that is? That's fucking Chief's fault. If he was there and Kai didn't call it in, Chief is responsible for thousands of fucking human lives dying in
He
that
could not
massive
care less.
ship. No, he couldn't. You're
You're saving
welcome.
humanity.
The coin told me no.
Oh my god, he's just so in his own world. Like he does not give a shit about humanity.
He's just chasing the high once again of fucking touching
He
an
is.
artifact and touching the key
He's
all
remembering
he
that night
cares
with
about in this
McKee.
world.
Yeah, he's hoping to have the similar meetup.
with Cortana. Tell me about this forge mode dude at the end, Taylor. What's going on with him?
Yeah, what's his name
Guilty
again?
Spark 343 Guilty
Right.
Spark.
Oh.
So every Halo ring every installation has a monitor basically, and these guys oversee and maintain the Halo rings. They keep up the maintenance, all that kind of stuff, and their programming is aware. They usually in the games refer to Chief as Reclaimer, and it's because the Forerunners left humanity to take up the mantle of responsibility, take over all the Forerunner tech, all that kind of stuff. That's why he refers to humans as Reclaimers. And I really wasn't expecting him at the beginning of the episode. I thought Chief, it was after all the events and he was being interviewed and asked about the flood, all that kind of stuff.
Right,
Not the
right.
case. It is Guilty Spark, and so he is in Halo 1. He's a companion of Chief, kind of, and he is a reoccurring character throughout the games. It's interesting the dialogue that's going on because it seems like it's weird. I'm trying to figure out what's going on really, because usually when humans first arrive in the games, the monitor Guilty Spark was getting super excited and started doing all these different things on the Halo ring, getting things going because humanity was here and it's finally happening. But this feels different. It felt like it didn't trust Chief. It trusted McKee, and Chief's trying to like figure out like, oh, well, you gave her this information, but you gave her the wrong information. Like, she's evil. You need to trust me, kind of a thing. I'm very excited to see this character, and hopefully we get to see more of this character in season 3 and what's going to come out of it. But yeah, I'm not sure, and I feel like it's another thing that's just so bold and just so much to put in here. People that are general audience members, they're going to be like, okay, we got zombies now. Is the Covenant not even a threat anymore because the Arbiter died? And now what is this robot ball we got here? Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but I definitely remember him popping up here or there. Side note, I always love that forge mode, like it contextualized how you're flying around and building stuff through being one of the robots. It's cool.
Yeah.
Is there a reason his name's Guilty Spark? Because I remember that name now, but it's such a cool name, but also, what does
It's
it
not
really
very
mean?
forerunnery. Yeah, it's no Linda.
Yeah,
It's no Linda.
and John's definitely not creative enough to come up with a name like that.
Yeah,
This
no.
John, at least.
It doesn't seem like there's a real reason why. Some of the other monitors, they kind of malfunctioned, and oh, interesting. The monitor of the Ark is called Tragic Solitude. That's an interesting name.
Oh my gosh.
They all have they almost have like Xbox generated gamer tags or names that were just like adjective noun.
Kind of Penitent Tangent. That's another one.
That's
a
that's an
tongue
Xbox name right there.
Guilty Spark. It seems the people are thinking that he chose his name.
twister. Cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's
Yeah.
like Caesar in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, name of a king.
It's
Guilty
powerful to choose your
Spark.
own name.
Yeah, I guess I got a Halo game question for you, Taylor, because you said each Halo ring has a monitor, right? But doesn't the Halo ring doesn't it get destroyed?
This Halo ring does get destroyed, but the monitor, you see that it survives,
Okay.
basically.
I
Yeah.
see. Interesting. No, I really liked that reveal. Like you were saying, I didn't know really what was going on in the interview. I kind of thought it was either a flashback or a flash forward or something along those lines. But I really liked the reveal of it at the end. Although I didn't know too much about this guy, this guy being the monitor. I do just remember him from just throughout the games. Like I remember seeing him, so then when I saw him right there, it was like, oh, okay, that's a cool character to bring in at this point in time in the show. And yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's some sort of like a trial thing or something that it's like McKee and Chief, I guess, are like competing on to get something out of like the Forerunner stuff. I was a little bit confused with the dialogue between Guilty Spark and Chief there, but I don't know. It was definitely a cool way that they had done that sequence of like showing the interview, because it's an unfamiliar voice. It's definitely not Ackerson. It's definitely not any other characters that we had experienced before. And like I thought maybe it was like a new AI or something along those lines, which
Mhm.
I guess technically it might be. And Guilty Spark's probably along those lines, but yeah.
Let's see here.
That's all my notes, I think.
I was
Yeah,
actually impressed that between Chief and the Arbiter stuff, I was so expecting. The show just trained me. I was so expecting him to just take his helmet off for that entire fight, but like they actually kept it on. Definitely kudos to the show for finally doing what we asked. When he first lands on the planet, he takes the helmet off, and I'm like, there's no fucking reason to take this helmet off right now, but whatever. And then, so I thought from that point on, he just wasn't going to be wearing the helmet. I am very glad that he put it, he donned the mask, as one might say. So it's very, very underused throughout the show, but I'm glad they kept it at least for this episode.
that shot too when he takes the helmet off and he's holding it to his side. That's a snippet out of Halo Infinite, the original trailer cinematic that they released years and years ago. That was a cool little
yeah,
thing.
that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, but him with the helmet on, like he even had those fight scenes on that Covenant Corvette. That was really cool too. When he's in the hallway fighting the elites, he like puts the plasma grenade, sticks it onto a guy's chest, and he just walks out of the smoke holding the energy sword. I was like, man, that's pretty cool.
As all the
Except
Spartan
he's
3s are
late.
just bleeding out. And
Yeah, they're
dying,
all
like, where was
dead.
he? I thought he was coming.
You're welcome.
You don't need me there. Like, everyone's the Master Chief. And then he just
Yeah,
fucking shows
everyone's
up.
Chief.
I'm here and I saved the day.
God
You're
damn.
welcome. It's going to be the
Um,
meme from the show for me.
There was a line that Guilty Spark had when he's talking to the Chiefs. He said something about waiting in the dark. And I was speculating that, okay, are they going to jump to the end here and just put like a grave mind actually in this scene, something lurking below? Because in Halo 2, the Monitor basically got taken under control of that grave mind, and the grave mind basically had it latched on to its tendrils and was talking to it and all that kind of stuff. So I wonder if maybe there's something else on the Halo ring that they're alluding to. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My other note, again, fucking McKee, but I wrote, it feels now it's like humans against humans in this war. McKee being the representation for the Covenant is super lame. So there's that.
Agreed.
And I think the only other thing I have is Vice Admiral Stanforth. He was introduced in Halo 2. And they mentioned him last episode, but it's very cool to see his name mentioned again here as well, basically in charge of the fleet. You alluded to this earlier, Dylan, but when Perez is being dragged, she grabs two needlers. It's a good shout out to Halo 2 when they introduced the dual needlers as a new combat tool there. So I really like that Easter egg. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
It's like one of the most OP weapon setups I remember from that game.
Super OP. God damn.
Needlers are really strong.
Took out Vanek. Took out Spartan. That's not supposed to die. So
Only
yeah.
one took him out. Yeah. No suits.
No suits. I have nothing else to add in this
Yeah,
show.
I think that's it. That's all I got. So, I mean, in closing, what are your closing thoughts for this season? Give a rating, give no rating.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I was down on this show for so long, and then like they kind of wrapped it up nicely for the most part, or at least like this episode was still like I feel like mostly negative, and last week there was a lot of nitpicks and whatnot as well. But it was at least like 2 episodes I enjoyed watching. I had a good hour in front of the TV, catching up on the latest. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's at a point where it's like, man, I kind of do want like another season now. But I don't really know if we get it. And I think within a couple weeks, if it gets confirmed that they're not making it, I don't think I'll be heartbroken. But just in this moment, there's some fun things that have been set up. We've kind of weeded out some characters that I'm not as interested in. So ideally, we could reinvest in some more new characters or characters I'm more interested in, some new dynamics and whatnot. But overall, just it was just a fun, like very Halo-centric episode. We got a lot of Chief in the suit. We got a lot of Flood. We got to be on the Halo for a little bit. So just some fun stuff as a fan of the games and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a bit bittersweet, and I wish the whole series, at least this whole season, could have been as fun for me as these last 2 episodes were. But that's can't always get what you want. That's what I got today.
Can't. I was hoping for Linda, and we got no Linda.
Yeah,
Maybe
give
next
me
season.
Linda, man.
Yeah. Overall, I think this is a pretty disappointing season for a disappointing show. Although they're like, I was getting pretty hyped with certain moments of the show, and I just feel like it would have been better if those moments were spread out throughout the entire season, as opposed to just having them just very minorly. And like, there's really not much for me to like want to rewatch this season. I think if anything, it would be like this episode probably alone, and there'd probably still be quite a few things I'd be able to fast forward through. And like, this was my favorite episode of the season, so I am glad that we at least ended on a high note. It would have sucked if we just peaked early on and it would have been like a drag, because like this season definitely felt like a drag at numerous points. But it was nice that they kind of picked it up here at the end. I think that if the show gets canceled and like we don't get another season, I'll be okay with that. I think, although there is some nice questions that they're leaving us with, like at the end of the season here, I'm really just not attached to the show to the point that if it is canceled, like if I never get those answers, I guess I'll be okay with that. But I don't know. I guess it won't be. There'll be something that if it gets announced and we get that next season, there'll be some things where it's like, okay, well, I'm at least a little bit excited to get that answered. But I don't know. Hopefully that they listen to our reviews throughout the season and just learn from our criticisms.
Maybe not Pablo, though. I mean, that might
No.
be too much for the man. He might not be able
It's
to
true.
handle it.
Yeah, no. But I'm okay if they kill that guy off here pretty soon. And maybe next season is just like all Covenant stuff. That would be cool. They would never do that because it's so bold, but maybe that's the show that I want.
Looks like season 3 not confirmed yet, but the head writer has said that he's already planned a lot of stuff, which is potentially
I'm sure he
meaningless
has.
statements.
to be expected
Yeah.
if you're a writer of the show.
Yeah, ideally you think about future proofing your product a little bit.
You're like, all right, we got the next season. You got that script? He's like, what? I didn't even start. I have no ideas. No ideas. But yeah,
Put them all in
think,
episode 8, all in one spot.
I think if I had to like rate this season, I would definitely have to give it a failing grade. I don't know, 4.8 or something. Something in that
right on the
range. It like, I do want to pass it because of some of the big Haloism stuff's in there, but like Kessler, we got like all of that stuff with that family, and like not a fan of what they're doing with the Quan Ha, the last of the Ha's, and just the importance of that character. I don't need that at all in this show. So yeah, somewhere in that failing grade. Right now, I'll give it the high 4.
Yeah, this show, the back end here had things that I liked, but as a Halo fan in general, I think that everything that they've done so far in this season has been very convoluted, poorly written, and very controversial. I don't like how they're telling the story. I really don't. I feel like I stand by the fact that I feel like the showrunners watched Halo in 5 minutes on YouTube and then just are pulling their favorite things and sprinkling it in a very loosely cohesive forward narrative that is playing off the main game's story but still trying to be its own thing. The original ideas that they've introduced to, I'm not really enjoying it. I like certain parts of Quan's character in the show, but then it just gets sprinkled in with other things that I'm not enjoying. The stuff with Kessler, not really a fan. Just other scenes too that just I can't help but I shouldn't laugh because some of it was pretty dark. But stuff like we talked about, just laughing, like when they're training like Kessler and the other kids, and this man comes out of the smoke with his fucking baton, thinking he's gonna beat these kids down, which is horrible. And then full on fucking Soren comes out. Like there's stuff like that that makes me laugh. other stuff too with Pablo, just his decisions, like yelling at the guy, changing the fucking sign on the wall. There's just so many different things that
Put that back.
yeah, put that
forgot
back.
about
Yeah, there's so much weird shit, and then the character dynamics too that just they're so different from their counterparts in the games and the books. It hurts me as a Halo fan, but I stand by that sentence that I saw someone post online. Like, is it an okay sci-fi show? Like, it has its merits, but it's a very bad Halo show, and I stand by that. I think it's very, very spot on. Other people seem to enjoy this online, and I'm baffled. But hey, you're entitled to enjoy what you enjoy, and if you enjoy this show, then by all means, you're helping us get that third season. So there you go. I'm going to give this, however, a 4 out of 10. I'm not going to pass it. I genuinely think that it could have been better on many aspects. Is it better than season 1? I'll say yes. I don't remember what I gave the first season. I'm pretty sure I would have failed it. But I would put this over it in terms of rewatchability and just how I enjoyed it. So there's that. But I would like to see a season 3. I'm not going to lie. The finale definitely tempted me to put my toe into that pool, and hopefully we'll see something. If they cancel it, then I'll just go play the games to see how the story ends again, and I'll leave it at that. So anything else you guys have in conclusion here?
No, it's been fun
All
ride
right.
with you guys once again
Yes.
on this show. But
Yeah, it's been fun.
absolutely.
Another
at the
reason
same time,
why I
I'm
want
glad it's over.
Yeah.
well, that's another reason why I want a season 3, so we can keep the ride going.
We can do other
We'll see.
content too. We don't have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
keep sticking around for Halo.
Do retrospective of the games. Let's do that next.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like that
down.
idea.
Oh shit, yeah.
That'd be fun.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, joining us on this adventure of Halo Season 2. So we'll be back next time in the Geekverse. So until then, you're welcome.
Bye.